Good morning, Honorable Tongai Muzenda. You are very welcome to our platform. We are just a platform of people that are looking to share learning and to get to understand what are the important aspects to national development and what is our contribution to it. And we welcome you because you're quite multi-socketed in your experience and in your expertise, and we are looking to learn from you. So just as we're starting on, I just want to know, who is Tongai Muzenda, and what is the length and breadth of your experience from your education to what sectors have you been involved in, and just from the start right up to what you're currently doing now. Thank you.
Good morning, Tendai. Thank you for welcoming me to this platform. And I've noticed I recognize quite a lot of people on the platform. Yeah, my name is Tongai Muzenda. Education-wise, I went to the University of Zimbabwe in 1985 to study economics. So I got an honors degree in economics. After school, I then went to Anglo-American. I joined Anglo-American, working in the minerals and metals division, the export market, where we're responsible for base minerals. And but not only base minerals, not gold, no precious stones at that point in time. I then went to work for Zimalois. That's about 10 years later in Gweru, which is a chrome mining beneficiation operation based in Gweru, which produces ferrochrome. Around 2001, I then started for my master's in business leadership with the University of South Africa, UNISA, completed about in 2003, 2002, somewhere there. Then I left Zimbabwe Alloys in 2008 and started my own business, and I wanted to do coal, but it didn't do well, so I stopped. Went into farming. I'd already started farming in around 1998 while I was in Gweru. I'm still a farmer in Gutu now, where I do wheat mostly, some more grains like maize and so forth. I also grow soybeans and keep a bit of cattle and sheep at the farm. I also went into politics. My family has got a background of politics. My old man was the vice president of this nation until he passed on in 2003. And in 2013, I became a member of parliament for Gutu West. For the period of 5 years. During that period, I also was appointed Deputy Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, a post which I held for about a year and a half. Then I was asked to leave office for various political reasons, so I stopped. We contributed what we could during that time, especially on the social aspect of social welfare aspect of things. Public service is basically run by Public Service Commission, but we oversee it. We used to oversee it. Then the labor aspect is basically when wages, conditions of service of employees, stuff like that. So basically that's what I'm doing now. I got a job at an organization called the Minerals Marketing Corporation of Zimbabwe, MMCZ, which is a parastatal, an organization owned by the government, which it's a regulatory authority which is responsible for the exports of all minerals mined in this country, Zimbabwe, except for gold and silver. And this is my background. I've been in the export business for over 20 years with Anglo-American. I guess that's where my strength is. And so MMCZ, like I said, is a regulatory authority which is responsible for exporting of minerals and also to monitor mineral export and to inspect to make sure that we get good value as a nation. Thank you. That's Tongai Muzenda for you. And by the way, I'm married to 2 kids. Thank you.
Honorable Muzenda, your father, Dr. Simon Vengasai Muzenda, was both the vice prime minister and the vice president from about 1980 up to about maybe 2003, and then his demise at 80. And he was serving under President Robert Mugabe for that long. But we never really heard much, except, just, a lot of development that he was doing in Masvingo. But in terms of his role as the vice president, what do you believe to have been some of his achievements as a politician, as an individual that we never heard about? And for him to have served under President Robert Gabriel Mugabe for such a long time, there must have been something that he saw in him. What was that? What was something that was unique about your father? What were his contributions to the national development of Zimbabwe that we never heard of? And yourself as a son, what do you believe to have been the contributions that your father made to the development of our country? And I also, in that same breath, I want also to know the Robert Mugabe that we know, right, is quite multifaceted. Some people want to believe he was a tyrant because he stayed in for a long time. Other people might want to see him as a global icon who could stand in the face of the imperialists and tell them to go and hang. And other people would want to see him as both. So some people love him and other people hate him with equal intensity. But who was Robert Mugabe from your perspective? What stands out for you in terms of how yourself and as a family experienced Robert Gabriel Mugabe? Thank you.
Okay. Mzee, that was my dad. By the way, Mzee is not a shortcut for Muzenda. Actually, Mzee in Swahili means an old or wise man. So Mzee was Mzee since the war. And I know Dad went to the war in the early 70s to Zambia. Then from Zambia, he's one of the architects who brought children guerrillas into Mozambique. And the Mozambican story, I don't know much. All I know is half of our family went to the war. I was too small to go then, but I'm sure if the war had continued, I would have carried on. So he did his part during the war. And my understanding from those who went to the war, especially in Mozambique, is that he was a unifier of people. And when he came back to Zim, he was appointed Deputy Prime Minister until the Unity Accord in 1986, was it? Is it 86 or somewhere there? When he became Vice President until his demise in 2003. The number of projects which Mzee did were not in Masvingo per se. What Mzee did was he would go around the country like a real national leader and try and make sure that projects, including my schools, if you look at the schools built in the country, if you look at some of the road infrastructure which they worked on, I'm not saying as an individual, but as a vice president, he worked tirelessly to an extent that we as a family we did not have enough time with him because he spent almost all his time working for the nation. Oh, and by the way, in 1980 he was also foreign minister, both deputy prime minister and foreign minister, until he relinquished that to the late Mangwenda, witness Mangwenda, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the things. Yes, I Bob worked with my old man from the war until his demise. And I know during when he died at National Heroes Air Camp, Robert Mugabe actually mentioned that he had lost his right-hand man. And of all the politicians I know in this country, Zé was the one who would not hate anyone because of their political affiliation. And I guess that was true when he passed on. The whole hierarchy of the opposition party came to bury the old man. I'm talking about Morgan Sangirai, the whole hierarchy came to bury him. And that was really humbling for us. So in our minds, he was a real nationalist who tried to embrace everyone, not because of your party, no, but because of being a Zimbabwean. So I would say his biggest contribution, besides unifying people in the country, his biggest contribution was to see development and to see the Zimbabwean person, not the black Zimbabwean, the Zimbabwean person, anyone who was Zimbabwean, to live in a peaceful environment, in a comfortable as possible environment. And I know he was very passionate about kids going to school, and he would not leave any stone unturned without making sure that the children of Zimbabwe had a fair and good education. Working under Bob, we all have our own feelings or our own thinking of what Robert Mugabe was like. And anyone's what can I say? Well, you say I worked under Robert Mugabe briefly as deputy minister. My father worked as vice president, and Bob was a courageous, principled man. Yes, he may be a tyrant. I don't know. It's possible because there are a lot of people who don't like him. There are also a lot of people who admire Robert Mugabe. But when he stood up on any platform, be it an international platform, be it United Nations General Assembly, be it in Zimbabwe, in Raleigh Trufaro, he would command respect from people. With the tyranny part of it, I don't know. It's possible, I don't know. And again, like I said earlier on, I'm not qualified to comment on that one. Thank you.
Honorable Muzenda, we seem to have a very strong clientelistic approach to the management and coordination of constituencies by elected public representatives. I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong or right, but that's just the way it is in terms of, a lot of our publicly elected representatives will go to the constituencies and they will provide with bags of rice and all that, and that quite kind of intensifies towards election time. Now in 2021, going to 2023, you begin to see much more activity at constituency level by prospective or currently elected representatives. And that's quite a unique model probably to Africa, because when you go to the Western countries, that's quite different. People will go and present with their manifestos, and people will be elected based on what they're proposing to do and the changes that they're proposing to bring to the local constituencies. You were an MP in Gutu West, and what were some of your achievements, in Gutu West as an MP? And I also want to know, in terms of, the impact of the work that you did at policy level, as an example. A lot of our elected public representatives say nothing in the parliament until the term finishes, or probably they just say their maiden speeches and that's it. So I just wanted to know both your perspective in terms of what should be the role of an MP at constituency level, and what probably must be done in terms of ensuring and holding to account elected public representatives, so that whatever issues are happening at grassroots level are brought to public conversation and debate, and the issues are represented in the parliament as they should. Because at the moment there is a very glaring mismatch between the role and what they actually do, So I just wanted to know, A, what what was your contribution and what were some of your achievements in Gutu West? And what do you think about how we can hold to account elected public representatives across the board, ZANU-PF and MDC, so that they can fulfill that role in a much more effective way? And what do you think about the handing out of goods and bags of rice to people, as opposed to the idea of just going out and selling your manifesto and people elect you on the basis of that? Thank you.
Okay. Well, I guess African politics is still way backwards, in my opinion. And yes, people get inputs like agricultural inputs in rural areas. In town, it's money used to buy people things like things which are not developmental, like beers and stuff and whatever, and having parties and whatever. And I think all MPs, members of parliament, before they start sitting in the House of Parliament, they're actually taken out and are educated or are briefed about their role as members of parliament to represent people, to debate policy and to develop their areas, not using your own money, but using public funds. For example, we want something in Zimbabwe they call Constituency Development Fund. And you're supposed to be lobbying for your constituents. You're supposed to go to parliament, make a lot of noise for your constituents and for Zimbabwe in general. But then some of us, or some of the MPs, they think giving people foodstuffs, like you mentioned bags of rice, like you give people fertilizer and stuff, which is not accounted for in many areas, if I may say, and some of it is stolen. We all know that. But that, in my mind, that's not the way we must be doing it. Yes, we want to help our people, especially those who are less privileged. And I was in one of those ministries, the social ministries, which we would source for funding, or source for food for the vulnerable people. Not to get votes, no, but to help those who are less privileged than ourselves. But unfortunately, some of us use that same foodstuffs, so the funding which comes maybe from central government, and sometimes from local government, and sometimes from international organizations like the United Nations, as if it's your own. No. So I believe we need to re-educate our members of parliament, our public officials, so that they can tell the people the truth. What can you deliver? What can you deliver to your constituency? Not buying votes with foodstuff, which 9 out of 10 don't belong to you. So that needs to be changed. You asked me about my achievements and contributions in Gutu West. I'm not sure if I can just talk about Gutu West or about the nation at large, because part of my 5 years I was also a deputy minister, so I must be held accountable for what I did. Okay, on policy level as deputy minister, fortunately, I had a minister who allowed me to work for the nation, Minister Goch at that point in time. And I literally traveled the whole country, the whole 10 provinces on social welfare aspects, which included old people's homes, juvenile homes, and so forth, and try to improve the training institutions for quite good, a lot of them good institutions, which had been left to rot. You may know the institutions like institutions like Toronto in Mutare almost died. So we tried to resuscitate them. In Gutu West, colleagues, we worked mostly on infrastructure, and we tried to put power into people's areas, into wards. If it's on the Gutu rural district, we had 9 wards in Gutu West, and we put quite a number of power. We powered quite a lot of institutions in Gutu West. Again, this is not Tongai Muzenda's money, but it's lobbying into central government. You go to RIA, which is Rural Electrification Authority, and we lobby there to get that for your people. We built a number of schools, rehabilitated some schools, also used my position to computerize some schools in Kutu West through Potras. Again, that's not my money, but that's lobbying. Then in Parliament, because of my position as Deputy Minister, at that point for 1.5 years, I had quite a lot of influence talking to the people and convincing ministries and central government and local authorities to assist in developing my constituency. So that's part of what we did, but in a different interview, I can give you more detail. Thank you.
You were the Deputy Minister for almost 3 ministries in one, which was Public Services, Social Welfare and Labour. And for us, in my perspective, to bundle up labour, social welfare and public service was a bit much in terms of achievement, in terms of effective allocation of resources to these 3 equally important sectors of our lives. If you look at, for example, the Botswana government and how they're able to manage their social welfare and how that has sustained the Botswana society in terms of secure livelihoods. And that is obviously down to efficiently and effectively managed social welfare system and public service and social welfare system. But for our country, considering our history and how the issue of labor has been such a thorny issue, up until now it's still a thorny issue. And for you to be, and for there to be a ministry that had all 3 in one, for me, I think it was problematic. What do you think about that? And what do you think about what can be done differently currently with regards to the management of our social welfare, public service and labor in general terms? And we also want to know, you were fired by Robert Mugabe. It was quite a surprise because you'd have thought that President Mugabe was very, if anything, loyal to your father, even after his demise. And you'd have thought, because our politics is quite tribal, and it's not just Zimbabwean politics, it's politics in general terms. People, you protect your own and you protect the children of your own like your own. What happened? What really happened? Can you tell us what happened? And then we're going to go into your work in agriculture after that. Thank you. Just on agriculture, Honourable, please can you comment on what your agricultural projects are at the moment, where they're located? I know that you said you were doing wheat farming. So what is the scope of it in terms of, how many hectares and how many, what's the scale of the production so far? A lot of Zimbabweans are grappling with mechanization of their farming projects at the moment. Where do people get capital for it? Where do people get financing for their agricultural projects? And what kind of assistance is out there? And which institutions do people go to get mechanization and support for agricultural inputs and all that? And where are the markets? Where are the markets for wheat? And what do you think would have been some of your winning factors with regards to your grand wheat farming, for example, because you seem to be having a much more large-scale type of farming as opposed to just small-scale subsistence one. So what has been, if you were to advise somebody who is in the similar type of farming, what would be your advice in terms of the winning factors? I know that you're quite hands-on with your projects and you manage really from the ground and all that. I think that's one of the things. But what else have you done? Some people have said, some people just go off to grow plants in places where maybe the soil is not conducive for the kind of plant that they have and all that. So in terms of soil testing and all those kind of things, can you share some tips and nuggets around some of the winning factors with regards to agriculture? both for small scale and large scale farmers? Thank you.
Okay. Yes, the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, it's a huge ministry. It's a huge responsibility, and it's about people. It's about people life. You know, it's big and very busy. But I think the reason why they put together was the cabinet should not be too large. That's my thinking. But the real logic behind it, I'm not too sure. But I could always research and find out again why it was like that. But I think it's just because of the size of cabinet. Let me talk the public service aspect, if I can explain. This one is not a huge responsibility for the ministry. We're just overseeing what public service does. Public service basically was run or is run by the Public Service Commission. And the chairman of the Public Service Commission reports in a dotted line to the Minister of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare. But otherwise, he reports to the president directly. So it's almost like a ministry on its own, just being regulated by the ministry. The labor aspect, yes, there's the director responsible for that in the ministry and a full complement of people. But, you know, it's not that busy. In my mind, it's not that busy because you got Apex, you got all these organizations which come together and set up, once you have set up wages and working conditions are done, there isn't much. And people make noise and that's it. But otherwise, there isn't much. It's like in an organization like an HR department. So it's not that busy. But the social welfare aspect or social services aspect, that's mammoth. That is huge. That is where, when I was deputy minister, I think I spent more than 80% of my time working on that. And that aspect in my mind should be a standalone. Then these other two which I spoke about, I can go anywhere else, join to other ministry, but this one is the busy one. So if I was to do things differently, if I had the power to change, I'll take social welfare out and let it run on its own because it's big on its own. Then the other two can go as departments anywhere else in other ministries. That's what I think can be done different. Why did I get fired? You know, unfortunately, the constitution, the law in Zimbabwe, the president has got the powers to hire who he wants or who she wants and to fire. And they don't have to give you a reason. But I think I was fired because of being vocal. I'm just thinking and expressing my thoughts. And I don't think it had anything to do with national politics. I don't think so. I think it has to do with the politics of Mashingo. But I don't know. When I was fired, I was upset for 24 hours. Then I said to myself, boy, you have not been deputy minister all your life. Carry on with your life. I carried on with my life. Now I'm back. I'm the general manager of MMCZ. So why I was fired, Tendai, I don't know. But I think it's political more than my capabilities of running that ministry. Thank you.
Just on the last point with regards to the fact that you serve at the pleasure of the president, which obviously is unavoidable by its nature. What is your opinion in terms of how we can reform that? We saw a lot of political casualties during the time of President Mugabe, and I think reshuffle is an instrument for governance, isn't it? But also then it's weaponized. It's used as a way of doing away with perceived opponents or maybe real opponents, you know, and naturally so politicians like to surround themselves with people that they trust and people that they know will have their back eventually. But is that not problematic for political system? I strongly believe that contributes to corruption, because if you're going to go in and you don't know when you're going to leave, you're going to make the best of what you have while you have it. You know, so how can we reform that part of our governance so that it becomes like a contractual arrangement that once you appoint me, then there has to be a process and a process that is operationalized beyond just the office of the president and all that. Now, that could be just wishful thinking on my part, but I just wanted to voice my concern around the tyranny of removing people just based on whether you like them or not versus their performance. We've got some people that we know that are no longer in government that would have performed really, really well, and they were removed unceremoniously and all that across the board. That happens not just in national governance, but also even political parties across the board. It happens in high levels of decision making in companies and all those kind of things. This is almost like a cancer that we have in our country, where people can it's okay. It seems to be an accepted normal culture of just removing people that we don't like. Thank you.
My farm is located in Gutu, Gutu West in Ward 7, about 15 kilometers from Gutu town. I used to farm in Gweru, then I left Gweru. I was listing a farm there, then I bought this one in 2000, I think 1999, 2000, finished transaction in 2000. And the biggest crop here at the farm is wheat. I used to do, of course, you cannot grow wheat without irrigation. So the first point of call is to make sure that your irrigation works. You got proper pumps, you got proper equipment. I used to use my what you call sprinklers overhead. Now we've developed a bit. About 4 years ago, we invested in what is called a center pivot. It's more efficient. It's more efficient in terms of control of the moisture on your crops. It's more efficient in terms of labor. You just need a person, 1 or 2 people. Whereas if you're using the overhead, depending on what hectares you are working on, you will need a lot of people to move pipes and what have you, to repair the best and what have you. So you would, we have changed. We bought a center pivot, a 60-hectare center pivot, which means I can grow at any point in time, as long as the water is in the dam. I can grow 60 hectares without worry, because you want to do it and you think you use natural rain, that's an immediate failure. So you need that one. On technical aspects of what you can grow, this is weather driven, this is the climate driven. I know there's climatic change around the world, but there are areas which you cannot grow with. Good is quite good. You can have at least minimum 4 tons per hectare, but obviously here today, this year I think we'll do plus minus 6 tons a hectare. We've done only 45 hectares because the other 15 hectares had sugar beans, which we have since harvested, and we're putting maize later on. Like a good Zimbabwean, I'll put some maize because we need the maize, and we also need wheat. I said earlier when we do a bit of cattle, doing cattle ranching. I'm actually working. I'll send you a picture of some of the areas which we are paddocking. Paddocking basically is just fencing off areas, and the cattle go in there, and they are safe in there, and they can have their food, their grass, and supplemental feeding if there is not enough grass in the paddocks, which makes life easier to look after them. I've also started a small sheep project, which I'm keeping sheep called merinos, the ones with a lot of wool around them. Is what we have here. Hopefully at some point in time I'll be able to take off the wool and make some fur for jackets, expensive jackets, and make money out of it. The markets for the products at the moment for big for grain, it's simple. Currently, all my wheat I just delivered to GMB, which is the Grain Marketing Board in Zimbabwe. And last year the prices were quite good. I worked with an institution, part of Agritech, called Command Agriculture, where they provide you with the inputs, your wheat, your fertilizers, your diesel for harvesting and also tilling the land. Then when you deliver to GMB, they take off the cost and the balance comes back to you. So if you do it properly using the command route, you can actually make money and make business. Unfortunately, I spoke about free handouts from members of parliament or from some institutions. That's wrong. People must know that when you go to a bank, you borrow money, you must return it, you know. So the same thing, this is a business. It's not just getting things for free. Where our challenge lies in Zimbabwe at the moment is the financing. So where do you get the money to do this project? When some of the interest rates, which are asked by the banks, are madness. I mean, if you borrow, say, in foreign currency, say US dollars, euro, and you are asked to pay back in 25%, and you know you can get the same money for less than 5%, there's no way business can improve. So we need assistance in the funding of this business. But you see, also when you look at it, a lot of people just go into farming because they've heard there's money without actually thinking. You come here to Gutu West, you should have soil sample. What can you grow? Don't just come and grow tobacco here, or you come and you grow maize in a large scale. You can't grow maize large scale in Gutu, otherwise they've 2 times per hectare. And we know if you do it in the same place, like in Mashonaland West, same as Zoe, National Central, Anashampa, and so forth, you can go 10 times plus. Some people go as high as 20 times. So I want to make sure that you have the proper equipment, the proper weather, so that you put proper crops. Even if it's animals, you want to put the proper animals, not just any animals, right? So that you make sure you're doing the correct thing. In terms of mechanization, when you are commercial like myself, I want to say I'm a commercial farmer. I enjoy farming. You need to really put money into equipment. New tractors, I think at least every other year, you replace your tractors. You put new tractors, sell the old ones, and then now you're doing proper business. You have a combine harvester. I have a combine harvester at the farm. I'll send you a picture also of that. And that is what you want to use it for your farm to harvest. When you're finished, you can then hire it out. It's money coming in, and that's the kind of money you want to continue using. But for startup businesses, it's very difficult to start up at the moment unless, because like I said, borrowing from the banks is disastrous. But there are institutions like I think the CBZ, one of the banks, has got some facilities which are being supported by government. I think it's called Agro Yield or something like that. I know not Zimbank, was the other bank, the agricultural bank, the agricultural bank, what do you call it? Sorry, I can't remember the name. You can borrow or you can hire from them equipment to use. Thank you.
You are the general manager for minerals marketing of Zimbabwe. You are the one that, almost holds the purse in terms of the marketing of our natural resources. And this is where the public eye is on. We've got huge amount of expectations with regards to, national wealth and the contribution of our natural resources, particularly mineral resources in Zimbabwe. And there's been huge amount of expectation and huge amount of fallout and hoo-ha around the marketing of this, and in terms of the revenues that we are getting out of it. And we're supposed to be getting trillions, and we're supposed to be much richer than the global governments and northern governments. But because of the alleged mismanagement of mineral resources in general, over the years, over the decades and maybe ongoing, at a variety of levels, what is the scope, of our national wealth where mineral resources are concerned? Which mineral resources do we have in the country? And what is their worth? What is Zimbabwe's worth with regards to those mineral resources? And what is the problem? Why do we still have people that continue to live in abject poverty, below the poverty line, and living on less than $1 a day? Why do we have people that are still in poverty, yet we've got so many minerals? What is the problem? Is the minerals marketing company that you're managing failing us? What is going on? There has been disquiet in the recent week between yourselves and ZCDC as well. What is going on there? It is our expectation that there is a smooth flow of communication and information between the key mechanisms that are driving the management of our mineral resources. What is going on, and has this been resolved? And where are we at with regards to the Kimberley process? In all this, are we still able to market our resources beyond Zimbabwe? And where are our minerals going? Which countries are receiving our minerals, and are we getting our worth from these countries? What kind of concessions are we getting with these countries? Currently, there's a huge amount of disquiet as well with regards to China, and the fact that China is coming in, and they are quite tyrannical about how the kind of concessions that they're getting, and how they're conducting themselves in terms of how they're mistreating locals, and how they're like a global bully that comes in and they do whatever they want. But whereas other people feel like China is really bringing value and worth to our countries and all that, where are we at with China, with regards to that as well? Thank you.
Okay, let me start from the back end of your questions. The Minerals Marketing Corporation of Zimbabwe's main mandate is to stop or to reduce transfer pricing of our minerals being exported. Because there are some unscrupulous business people in the mining industry who want to try and sell our products at less than market values. So it's one of our mandates to make sure that is done. Then secondly, we do the monitoring of all exports of minerals, so that what we make sure that what is going out is what the people or the producers say. For example, in terms of your analysis, your specification, some people may change the specification of their products so that they can then make money outside of Zimbabwe. So we have our own way of checking. We also have our inspectorate department, which makes sure that if a producer says they're exporting chrome, they're not exporting platinum. So we also check in liaison with Zimra, at the borders. Okay, that is basically what MMCZ is doing to make sure that we don't lose value on minerals being exported. But again, let me hasten to say that I'm not saying there's no leakage. There could be some leakages, but we want to avoid that and plug those walls. There's a difficult question which you asked me to say, why some of our our fellow Zimbabweans live in abject poverty, whilst we've got so many resources. What MMCZ make sure that we sell at the right prices, and the money comes into the country, obviously through the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, because all foreign currencies to come through that route for ease of accounting. But the distribution of that money, whether it's taxes, whether it's commissions, whether it's whatever revenues coming into the country, the distribution is not done by the Minerals Marketing Corporation. The distribution obviously is done by Treasury, which is really central government. So how people are living in abject poverty, I don't know in terms of the minerals. So we may have to escalate this to other offices outside of the MMCZ. Yes, we have lots of minerals in Zimbabwe, which we should be able to turn this economy around. And the dream in the Ministry of Mines, which I fall under as a parastater, is to get a $12 billion industry by 2023. All efforts are going towards that. Just for the $12 billion includes gold, by the way, and gold is quite big. It's probably the biggest mineral in terms of exports in this country. This year, I think we're going to, on other minerals except gold, I think we'll be over the $3 billion mark. This is 2021, and by 2022, with all these projects that are coming in, be it coal, be it platinum group, we should be going towards the $5-6 billion for other minerals except gold. And everything being equal, and by 2023, we should be getting very close to the $12 billion. And how that money is going to be used when it comes to the country, I don't know. I really don't allocate that, colleagues. About mismanagement of our national wealth, again, it depends on where you're looking at it. We've been very low as a country, but now I believe we're moving up the value chain, and I think with the current government, then the vision which we're seeing, things are changing. They may not be apparent like now, but watch the space. I think things are going to be changing for the better for our nation. Thank you. The relationship between MMCZ and ZCDC, as far as I know, it's cordial. Just like the relationship between MMCZ and any other producer. Could it be platinum producers, coal producers, chrome, granite, lithium, name it. If there's a disagreement or misunderstanding on prices, we tend to go back, sit down, and agree. We may not agree on the strategy of getting there, but we'll make sure as MMCZ we get the best possible price for minerals from Zimbabwe. That's what we do. So I don't think there's any problem. I think it was too much hype in the press, which I don't think is really anything to worry about. Okay, so and it's sorted, and soon in the next couple of weeks we will be having some tenders on diamonds. Then on Kimberley process, yeah, we obviously had our issues a long time ago, but now I think we are good. What is happening as I talk today, my team from MMCZ has been to Chiazo with members of parliament and with NGOs, which is the civil society group, various from all walks of life. And we have finished Chiazo now, which is where ZCDC is this week, starting on Tuesday. On Tuesday, and the MMCZ team and the parliamentarians and again civil society, the tripartite went to Murowa Diamonds, which is in Shavane, to just make sure that they're doing things according to the book. On top of that, they've gone to yesterday, Thursday, they went to the community called Sese community, which is in the Chiwi area, where the Murowa Diamonds is doing some exploration to make sure that the community is not being prejudiced. It has happened in many places that producers tend to not to take the corporate social responsibility. But we want to make sure that they do the thing correctly, in that the community where the minerals are being extracted at least benefits something. Because sometimes they don't benefit anything, and we don't want that to happen. Then we spoke about the Chinese business model of doing business. That one is it's a difficult issue to really comment properly, because the way the Chinese treat their employees, sometimes it's wrong. It's wrong. But I think some of us have been to China and seen some factories and how they work. I think it's the earth culture. I'm not sure if it's really, what can I say? I don't want to use the word racist, but I think it's just the way they do things, which is not according to our Zimbabwean way of doing things. But as we have noticed before, in Zim recently, there have been people who have been very, very cruel to their own employees. So that is something which the system is looking into, especially the Ministry of Mines. I'm sure they'll stop any activity which happens which is cruel to humans. Now, one of the most important things which we need to work on is the sanctions issue. The sanctions issue is making life very difficult for Zimbabwean minerals to compete on the international market. And we got MMCZ is still under sanctions for the Americans, which is the Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC. And it makes life difficult for us to compete fairly on the international market. It will be really helpful if some members on this forum could assist us to get us removed from the sanctions, because it's very difficult, and it makes the ease of doing business extremely difficult in the mining industry. I thank you.
And Honorable, what about there has been an ongoing debate around the issue of the sanctions and the correlation between the sanctions and the economic quagmire that Zimbabwe finds itself. And I want to believe that it's the same case, with regards to the marketing for our mineral resources. Is there a correlation between, the much debated sanctions and the marketing of our minerals? And with regards to your marketing strategy for the minerals, what is your marketing strategy, for your minerals? Has there been any learnings in terms of, for example, if the main or primary market for minerals is the West, where exactly, where in terms of the geographic location is the primary market for our minerals? And what is it that you're, in terms of your market analysis, is there anything that you're learning as you go along in terms of the strategies that you're employing, and what needs to change in your strategies from previous administration to what we are currently doing? And are we looking east, as a foreign policy, and then does that translate to the marketing of our mineral resources as well? And is that a viable and sustainable market for us? So if you could possibly do a market analysis for our mineral resources and some of the challenges that are in there, and what are your proposals to policymakers and those that have got leverage on the levers of power and decision making, in terms of what possibly needs to be done, and what is the role of civil society in all this? Because, traditionally and historically, there doesn't seem to have been a very collaborative way of working between civil society and the government and power, because of historical issues. But I think, as you said, that we cannot continue to be antagonistic and combative towards each other, and for us to because we all have a common purpose, which is to see a better Zimbabwe. What is it that civil society can do differently, so that it's not always a them and us and a blame game between civil society and government? And by government, I'm not just talking about the governing party, but I'm talking about the legislative, the parliament, and judiciary, and everything else. So if you could just expound on those issues, thank you.
Okay, let me go on the correlation between minerals marketing and sanctions. Yes, there is a direct relationship, if I may call it that, because all minerals from this country, like I said earlier on, pass through the Minerals Marketing Corporation of Zimbabwe, except for gold and silver. That's what the law says. Now, when the sanctions were imposed, I think it was sometime in 2007 or somewhere there, 2008. It was because it was understood that there were human rights abuses in the diamond fields of Shiadzo. And also the American government wanted to put pressure on the Mugabe regime at that point in time. But ever since the diamond people, the diamond miners, and the government have been working closely together, even with the civil society, to try and get rid of all those issues which were happening, because according to KP, the issues on security, there must not be the police or the army involved. It must be private security companies, which ZCDC I think has done well, and also Murowa has always done well on that function. So there is a relationship that all the minerals are passed through us, and we sell on behalf of all the mining houses. But also within our act of MMCZ, there are areas where we can actually exempt producers to market on their own. The biggest risk, however, is it's not all producers who are genuine business people. Some of them would take that advantage and try and want to export without all the proper documents, or export wrong quantities and declare wrong quantities, thereby prejudicing the country. So that will cause more confusion. Even if MMCZ were to stop monitor, someone has to do it, someone has to monitor, someone has to inspect. Where in the world do you find anyone's resources being exported without a record or without going through the system? Anywhere in the world, even the American system. I mean, there's customs, No, we need some form of control without interfering in the actual market. So, yes, there is that relationship between our marketing and, but I think it's a very unfair way of punishing people, a very unfair way of because like you say, then instead of us enjoying those benefits of the minerals, they go away. There's theft which needs to be kept. So we keep on trying. You ask about the markets of our minerals. Let me go back before the sanctions, or let me go back during the Anglo times when I used to work for Anglo in the late 80s, in the 1990s. We could sell, or we sold, throughout the whole world, irrespective of region, irrespective of color, irrespective of anything. Our biggest markets were Europe, America, Japan, and sometimes as far as South America. In Africa, unfortunately, some of the products which we're making in the Anglo days could not be sold within Africa. Maybe a little bit into Zambia, just a little bit, maybe a bit of coking coal and stuff like that, a little bit also into the DRC, but most of the minerals were being sold outside. But if you look at some of the minerals today, look at your chrome. More than 60% of the chrome now from this country goes into China. And why is that? Because we cannot sell directly into America, you know. We used to sell, especially there were two big companies those days, Zimbabwe Alloys Limited and Zimasco, which was Union Carbide before it changed to Zimasco. And most of the product from Zimasco would go into America. Now we have to find ways of going around this, and we don't want to be running around OFAC and trying to make things work. If you remember, before 1980, when Ian Smith was in charge of this country, there were sanctions, but they managed to go around them, you know, and they would create institutions which will bust the sanctions. But we don't want to be doing that. We want to have a fair playing field and see who wins. And we have the resources, and we can, besides sending them as raw materials, we can value add them here. Like, let's talk about PGMs. We can value add the platinum into platinum bars. At the moment, we're sending out as matte and as concentrates, and that's not good enough for us. We need to improve on that. But for us to be able to do that, we need free capital coming in. We need competitive capital coming in, not going behind back doors and trying to get things work. Then you spoke about the low-cost policy. Yeah, the Chinese have been very aggressive in coming into the country. Very, very aggressive. I tell you, they are almost everywhere in these minerals. And then what do? Do you say don't bring your money here? No, you can't say that. Do you say don't partner with us? No, you can't say that. So we need fair competition. We need free competition. We need the Chinese to be competing with the Germans. We need the Germans to be competing with the British. We need the British to be competing with the Americans and so forth. You know, we need the Belgians here. We need the Russians. We need everyone who's got who wants to have fair partnerships. But because of these sanctions, we end up being forced into a corner and look east policy. But we don't want to do that. We want an open field. That would be the best thing for this country in terms of our minerals. So I still think we need to continue. I'm happy that there are a lot of friendly countries which are going to the Americas, to America, to try and help remove the sanctions. So also, if from this group, like I said again, if people can lobby for the country so that we are not on sanctions, I'm sure we can change the life of people here. The role of civil society. I'm glad to say that now, at least on the diamond side, government, I consider myself part of government because we're a parastatal under the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development. We have engaged with the civil society. We have engaged with the producers. We have engaged with the legislature, which is our parliament, and we are working well. We tell each other the truth. We are one Zimbabwe. We need Zimbabwe to move. If there are issues which we are not doing well, we talk about them, and the civil society helps us, especially on issues of human rights. We need them to be on board. Well, before, a few years ago, civil society was seen as the enemy. But they're not the enemy if you look at it seriously. If you look at it seriously, you understand where they're coming from. And now and again, especially when people now go into election mode, we hear things like, NGOs are sellouts and what, but they're not sellouts as such. They've got their own point of view, which we must convince them that the correct point of view or our point of view is this. Come together to a table, agree, and the civil society actually can help us to have these sanctions removed, as long as we communicate. Recently, we had a good tripartite arrangement or trips between MMCZ, Parliament, and civil society, different organizations, and we traveled in the diamond fields to see what is happening. Because one of the biggest issues in the diamond fields, it doesn't matter whether it's private or it's government owned, it's what happens with the communities which are moved from where they were before, where the ancestral homes, where they have their graves, where they have their little fields. You move them and you don't compensate them enough. That's wrong. So that must change, and that is where we are going. And I strongly believe we are in the right direction. And this will also help us when we go to Kimberley process. Next plenary, I think it's next month in November. in Moscow. And if we go together as one voice and talk to Kimberley process, we may have these sanctions removed, or at least we'll be seen with in good light. But at the end of the day, we need to work together. It doesn't matter what we think, because if one hand pulls the other way, and the other one pulls the other side, we are losing. And the time goes, and we're not doing any service to our nation. Thank you. I hope I've explained everything which you had asked in the previous questions. Thank you. May I respond to the two questions, or the question and recommendation by G. Gombera? No, MMZ does not have the value of all the minerals in the ground, but there is a department in government called the Geological Survey, which falls under the Ministry of Mines, which does we're supposed to be responsible for all the exploration and all the minerals in the country. And then this information is fed into the Ministry of Mines, and the Ministry of Mines has got the mandate of allocating those resources to those who may want to explore, to mine, and stuff. MMZ comes in when we have information, but not all information. For example, we don't have information on gold, right? But we can talk to you about information on, say, chrome. We know what's happening there, but it's not within our jurisdiction to go into the mining and the geological aspect of the country. But there is another organization also which was supposed to be mining on behalf of the government called ZMDC, Zimbabwe Mining Development Corporation. So between ZMDC and the Geological Survey, they will have the value, or at least the quantum of the minerals in the ground. We will have the prices, which we can then attach to the quantities. But let me hasten to say, there are issues where people talk about so many billions of chrome. Let me give an example of chrome in the ground. But what we must do is to say which of this chrome is economically mineable. Well, some of it is just there, but it could be 5 kilometers underground. You cannot mine it, but it will be there. So that information maybe later on in the future, when technology changes, there may be a way of mining it. So we need to be careful. I'll not speak on how efficient geological survey is. It would be unfair for me to do that. I may have to refer those questions to them. Then I can come back to you or ask them to come and explain for themselves. Yes, and the second recommendation on plowback. Some time ago, we had those community ownership schemes. Which were abused to say in some areas, when we try to do them. Maybe we need to resuscitate that. I know in the days of old, we used to have rehabilitation fees, which will come back into the community. And we were forced to close the walls which we have mined. And we were forced to build schools. We were forced to have roads which work. Now, I don't want to be discriminatory, but if there's anyone on this group who comes, say, from Mutoko or from another theater and stuff like that, you would know what has happened to the granite, where there's granite, and how bad the infrastructure there is. Some of the things which must be sorted out, and I think government must be working on that one. Thank you. I hope I have answered you. Let me respond to how we market our diamonds internationally. Or how we market our diamonds generally. The law says 10% of diamonds mined in this country should be offered to the local industry first, which is DBAS. Okay, that's the Diamond Association. Then the balance can and will be exported. But generally, the local will never take up the 10% for various reasons. It could be capital again, or they don't have the capacity to cut and polish. Because when they buy locally, they must then cut and polish, or at least value add them, then export them. There are many ways of selling diamonds in the world. Currently, for ZCDC, I would like to assume everybody understands that ZCDC is the consolidation of all diamond mines which used to operate in the Chiadzo area mostly, but now they've moved also outside of Chiadzo area. It's a government-owned organization. What we're currently doing, all sales of diamonds are on auction, and so they are on tenders. We put tenders out. We invite people from all over the world, not necessarily from Asia. No, it's from all over the world, including Southern Africa, including South Africa, sometimes from Botswana, even sometimes from up north, Nana, Zambia, and so forth. But otherwise, all over the world, even some American companies are invited, British companies, no, British not that much, but Middle Eastern companies, mostly in Dubai, because there's a lot of activity on diamonds in Dubai. And also we invite from as far afield as China. There's also another company besides ZCDC. There's another company called Anjin, which is a Chinese company, also mining in Chiazo. And the selling process is the same. They just started mining about last year, and we had our first tender earlier on in the year, middle of this year, I think, if I'm not wrong. They also are exactly the same way of marketing. And the best bidder gets the material. If the prices they offer on tender is lower than the value put down by MMZ and the producer, then we negotiate until we come to some reasonable numbers. If it's too low, we cancel the tender. We cancel the tender, and then redo it. After we revalue it and redo the tender. Murowa Diamonds, it's a private company which operates in the Shalani area. Previously it was owned by Rio Tinto, but now the ownership has changed to some Indian company. I can't remember the name. Murowa is always preferred to sell their diamonds into Antwerp, because Antwerp is also Antwerp in Belgium. Antwerp is one of the hubs of diamonds in the world. So they prefer that, and also have a company called RTNDV, which has Rio Tinto something in and they get good value, and they also value add. They cut and polish, and the value is good. But all that value, whatever they export, MMZ is also involved in the evaluation, and they only export at the price which we have agreed. They need to go in. They're sold mostly in Antwerp, but they end up in New York, they end up in Hong Kong, they end up in Tokyo, all over the world, and sometimes in Beijing and other cities in China. So all we're doing is to make sure that whatever leaves the country leaves at a fair price. If today we tried to sell, just before my time, we tried to sell some diamonds into Antwerp, and there was a problem whereby the diamonds were attached because of political issues in the country in Zimbabwe. Like some farmers who were aggrieved when the land was taken over by government. They wanted the diamond attached. So to go to Belgium directly as ZCDC, we may face problems. But we will keep trying, and I'm sure the doors will open, and we can sell internationally at any place which we want. I hope I've explained the request there. Thank you. On the appointment of Temsek Mpazvirio and Dr. Mhlanga to the Dubai Diamond Exchange, I may have to find out what was happening there. Why I say that it was before my time, just for the group to understand. I joined MMZ in February 2019. But I can find out for you, and then I'll see why that was done. Otherwise, I'm sorry I can't answer that one. Thank you. Okay, thank you. My take from G. Gombera on the ZCDC. My understanding was ZCDC was formed. I think that time was during Minister Chidakwa's era. it was formed so that there will be responsible mining in Chiazo. That was my understanding. But the consolidation of all these mines there was so much legal issues which happened, and I think they're still going on. But what I know as we speak today, ZCDC seems to be now doing mining responsibly, because I think it's because they got rules in how they mine. What I'm not sure about, and ladies and gentlemen, on this one, I haven't been to the Anjin property yet. I may need to find out what is happening there. Since they started mining sometime last year. But what I can say is when they created ZCDC, it was to try and clean up the rubbish which was happening there. And I think there are still litigations happening with those private companies because they didn't want their concessions taken over by government. So let me also find out the real reason why this was done. But I'm assuming that is what was done because I was still in Parliament when this change was happening. The companies which were mining at the moment, even if you want to take them to book, they can always come back and tell you that you government took over while we were in the process of doing something. So it's a tricky situation on how you can hold them responsible. But let me also be very clear that there are many mining houses in this country, many of them, which are like fly-by-nights, and the way they degrade our environment is unacceptable. But I think the Ministry of Mines, through its Inspector Division, they're doing something about it to make sure that it doesn't happen. But again, it doesn't fall directly under MMCZ. Whatever we see in the fields with our monitoring and Inspectorate Division, we pass it on to the Ministry of Mines to assist. Yes, all the environmental feed degradation, that's already there. But whether it's sufficient, I don't know. Some time ago, I know they used to charge like 5,000, 10,000 Zim dollars for poor mining without rehabilitation, but that's nothing. Some of these guys will just take it from the back pocket and pay, and that's it, finished. And also, our country is not the most straightforward country in the world, and it's not the most corrupt-free country in the world. There is a lot of corruption happening in the fields there, which needs to be taken out. And I think the police and the other arms of the state should be able to do that. The way when anyone gets mining title, be it an EPO, be it a special grant, be it a claim and so forth, there are rules. And every quarter, miners are supposed to submit a report to the Ministry of Mines, which is then supposed to satisfy the ministry that they can carry on mining. Again, I'm sure the ministry will doing something about it to make sure that whatever the mining which is happening in the country is done in a professional manner, so that when we mine, we must leave something for the future generations, and that we mine responsibly. There are mines in this country which are very responsible. I can give you some examples. Look at mines like Unki, for example. That's an Anglo mine in Shuruk. Look at mines like Bilbos, the gold mines, Victor Gapar and so forth. Look at Mimos, very responsible in the do rehabilitation properly. But then look at other mines. You will see that there is a lot to be desired, and that is where we need to concentrate on. I hope I've answered. Again, when it becomes more technical, which I don't have jurisdiction over, I'll get more information and share on the platform. But I can also there's some if it's proprietary information on companies, some I cannot give on the group. I'll have to ask permission from those companies, then I can send it across to this group. Thank you. You are welcome. I hope I've answered properly. If there are any areas which are gray, please let me know so that I can explain. Thank you. It's a pleasure, and thank you for the engagement. And please, if there's any issues which you may need us to resolve or to discuss, let me know so that we improve the livelihoods of Zimbabweans. In the meantime, I'm signing off as I go to the fields. There's, on a lighter note, there's a little worm. I think they call it the American stalk borer, which is harassing my wheat. So I'm going to spray it using that center pivot I spoke about earlier on. And I hope when they die, the sanctions will also die. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.